Cool. So we just went through introductions. For anyone watching the recording, we just went through introductions. We're gonna go into the Q&A now, which is like the bulk of this event. So we're gonna get started. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat, but in the meantime, I'm going to pull from questions that were asked in the RSVP form. That's what it's called. So let me pull that up. So the first question we have is, so the first question we have is adjusting to the quarter system, acclimating to UC Davis, things like that. So does anyone want to start and just kind of talk about your experience with adjusting to the quarter system? I know, so Dave, you came from the quarter system, so you were kind of at an advantage in that regard. But for the rest of you who came from semester-based schools, you want to talk about your experience with that?
Yeah, I can go first, if that's okay. So yeah, I transferred from a semester-based college, a community college, and adjusting to the quarter system was a little bit rough. I met with my major advisor before starting, and he has some really good advice that I could just cruise through my years at UC Davis, taking 12 units and being involved. And I did that. I just took 12 units the first year at UC Davis, but it was still pretty rough. And I think the biggest shocker was that almost every week, at least for science majors, I don't know how it is for humanities majors, every week there is something due or you have an exam of some sort, whether that's an actual exam or a quiz, as opposed to the semester where you would have like a month or two in between exams and assignments. So I think that was the biggest shocker in the quarter system.
Does anyone else want to talk about their experience?
Lynette, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. I mean, each of us has really different experiences with the quarter system. And I think almost all of us, if not all of us, have come from a semester-based system. In my case, a lot of my units that I'm taking at Davis are actually laboratory units. So I was going to do labs anyway, so I'm taking full advantage of that. And if you guys could do that, I would definitely 100% recommend taking lab units as well, because in a way it kind of lightens your load on everything. And because of that, I am able to sort of cruise through the classes, and I'm someone who likes to get work done really, really quickly. So in that case, I actually really like the quarter system. I like to kind of check off boxes and be like, oh, I completed this class and this class and this class. It's just like, that's how I like to work. So if anyone is like me, they'll actually really enjoy the quarter system.
Yeah, and I can go next. I will say, I think I learned my lesson because I made a big mistake going from high school to community college. I thought, okay, I'm just going to take all of the same classes I was taking in high school. I'll load up on a math, English, a political science, and a science class. And I thought that was the way to go. It was not the way to go. I really struggled getting into community college and doing that route. And then moving on into Davis for my first quarter, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take it easy. I'm going to take 3 classes, 12 units for my first quarter, and try and get involved with something new. And I felt like that was a good segue into the quarter system. And what I've actually learned now as I've kind of progressed a year and a half later is that when I'm more busy, taking more classes, being active in more things, I'm actually more productive and I get more done. I'm less stressed. And I know that sounds like the complete opposite of what it usually should be. But once you kind of get in the rhythm of the quarter system, you'll be able to take more things on and feel comfortable with more things too.
Great. So that's like really good advice, Ryan. And I kind of want to extend this question to everyone else. So what's one thing you wish you knew that could have made this transition easier, or like a tip you have for incoming transfer students when it comes to the transition?
I'll start off. Sorry, Logan. I would say that, like, at least for social sciences classes, the workload is kind of completely different. Before in community college, I had like a lot of quizzes. You might have like short writing assignments throughout the semester, but that's not really the case at Davis. You do almost exclusively reading. You have a midterm, a final, and a paper. So the vast majority of your workload is going to be self-scheduled. So it's really on you to be able to like keep up with your lectures, whether you go in person or you watch the recordings, and then making sure that you at least like understand what the readings are saying, regardless of whether you read it or not. It's really up to you how much work you want to put into it for a social science class. So like my tip would be, be prepared and have a schedule, and just realize that like what you were doing before and racking up a bunch of small little points with all these small assignments is not going to be the case if you're in a social science major at Davis.
So Logan, you're gonna go?
Yeah. So I guess like to echo off of what Sasha said, sorry, is that you kind of want to start early, look at the calendar. You have 10 weeks, and then midterm and final are usually 5th and 10th week, and then your term paper is usually like 8th or 9th week, 8th or 9th week. So you sort of want to like map it out. You have to do X readings here, X readings there. You just don't want to leave it last minute and then have to frantically write your term paper, the night before, and it's like 12 pages, sometimes more. So you don't want to, wait last minute to do that.
All right. So I guess the next set of questions is about housing. Okay, let's start with those of you who live on campus first. So what do you like about on-campus housing? What do you not like about on-campus housing? Just kind of tell us about that.
I can go first really quick. So I live at the Green at West Village. I mean, I've lived there for all 3 years. I've lived there since the first day I transferred in fall 2020, and I just renewed my lease for next year too. One thing that I really like about it, one, it has all accessible doors are all automatic. I'm a student with a disability, so I really value that a lot of off-campus apartments like don't have automatic doors that just open whenever I put my little fob keychain up to it. So I really value that. Just like one of the main reasons why I chose to stay. But I also like that a lot of the things that you might need help with or you might need support with, you can just call someone and they'll come right away. I won't have to worry about an angry landlord off campus or anything like that. I have real good connections to student housing and dining. So, if the heater goes out, the AC goes out, I can just make a quick phone call and someone will come to my rescue, which is really helpful. And then additionally, you don't have to pay for those things. Like those are all included in your housing bill. And while they probably like spike the price up a little bit, I just find that it's kind of nice. But yeah, it's good when the Wi-Fi works. I'll say that.
I just want to extend off of Ryan. So I live at Seoul at West Village. So it's the same sort of area. It's just it's not considered on-campus housing anymore. It's considered off-campus housing. So I know a lot of people at the Green. I know a lot of people at Seoul. I know a lot of people who are on campus, off campus, in different places. There can really be a lot of pros and cons. I heard that in general, off-campus housing can actually be a lot cheaper. And at least at Seoul at West Village, it's sort of like the Green with sort of an all-inclusive thing going on. At the Green, you have to go somewhere to do your washer and dryer, but at Seoul, there's a washer and dryer in unit. There's options where you can have your own room, or sometimes you have to be with a roommate. I guess my biggest tip for those of you who are concerned about housing is that there's a UC Davis housing Facebook group. That's how I found my roommates, and that was really helpful because I got to find people that I got along with, and I was a lot less stressed out moving in.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to say about the Green before I kind of bounce off. Okay, Logan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm also a green resident like Ryan. It's a really great community. That's how I met most of my friends. Fun fact, we all met through a watermelon. So it was over the summer, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, do you want some watermelon?" And then that's how we met some more friends. So it's a really great, inviting community here at the Green. Like Ryan said, the Wi-Fi is kind of spotty here and there, but overall, the environment here at the Green is really welcoming. And it's your home away from home for the next 2 years or year and a half or however long.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. We're gonna go back to off-campus housing in a bit, but there's a lot of questions about meal plans. So is a meal plan worth it? Many people are wondering.
I'm sorry, I have to speak on this because I'm like a little bit enraged right now. Okay. So I got so many meal plans. I got like the meal swipes, but those go up to $11.50. And if you don't want to use the cafeterias all the time, then there's very limited options where you can actually use your meal swipes. And I think if you're like me and you get kind of sick of the same thing, because the cafeterias can sometimes just have the same sort of thing over and over again. Or if you're going everywhere and you want accessibility of food, then I would actually suggest Aggie Cash rather than the meal swipes. Because also when you do the meal swipes, the value is $11.50, but sometimes you end up just wasting money and it adds up. So I would suggest Aggie Cash over meal swipes.
Yes, Logan.
So I'm also on the meal swipe. So fall quarter, I had the 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and there's like different like alternatives that you could do. I know there's like a Sunday or Sunday through Thursday one, but I tried the Monday through Friday one, and by the end of fall quarter, I realized that I wasn't using it as much, so I decided to switch down to the 9 meals a week, and it has helped. It's like reduce some of the costs, but you're also getting about 2 meals a day depending on how you use it. So it's depending on how you use it, it really helps and like your hunger. But yeah, I also use Aggie Cash to get coffee and whatever else. But it does help. The 9 meals a week does help.
Okay, so general consensus is if you're gonna get a meal plan, 9 meals a week is the way to go. Aggie Cash is superior to dining swipes. Am I getting that? Cool. Okay. There's some questions in the chat that are follow-up. I'm gonna leave those to the chat mods. And now we're gonna go back to housing, but this time off campus. So who wants to speak to off campus housing and like the benefits, pros and cons?
I can start off. So I am in off-campus housing. I also being a reentry student, I knew like coming here, I didn't want to have a roommate who was like 20 years old because we have different life priorities. So heads up to everybody, like 1-bedroom apartments in Davis or studios are few and far between. It's very difficult to get them. You have to jump on them very, very quickly or be able to like inherit your lease from somebody else. That's especially true if you want to live at like colleges at LaRue, which is right across the street from the Arc, which is very convenient. So inheriting your lease is a big thing for that apartment complex. But pros would be at least for me personally, my apartment complex is very quiet. Like I don't have a ton of going on. It's a mix of people who are, early professionals and students. So it's a little bit more respectful in that sense. You don't have a bunch of really young people kind of running around. Also, the bus system is really great in Davis. There's pretty much a bus line outside of every single apartment complex. So It's really easy to get where you need to go. Also, there's a ton of parking if you have a car. That's the nice thing about being off campus, is that you don't have to get like a parking permit or anything like that. Most complexes have more than enough parking. And the drawback is really the price. Davis is a very expensive place to live. So if that's something that is a concern for you, I would definitely recommend looking at Woodland, West Sacramento,